Hare Krishna. So today I am with Lalitanatha Prabhu, who is a senior devotee in Denmark. I am in his room in the Temple of Copenhagen. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Oh, thank you for being here.
To make you free for this little interview. And yesterday we have seen that you have a very wonderful garden, you know. And actually, one of your, we can say, interest in Krishna consciousness is a scientific approach, you know. And actually, you wrote a few books, especially one book called Rethinking Darwin, you know, a Vedic study of Darwinism and intelligence design, you know. And you published that book, of course, you know.
Yeah, well, the BBT published it. It was actually ordered by the BBT.
Ah, okay.
It was 2009 was the 200th year of Darwin's birthday.
Yes.
And the 150th year of the publication of The Origin of Species.
Yes.
So therefore, the BBT thought that something should be published on Darwin.
Ah, yes.
So I was commissioned to write something and write a book on that for the BBT.
Ah, okay.
And the book was ready in 2008, but somehow the BBT didn't publish it until 2011. I mean, sometimes things just take longer like that. But it was actually the BBT who asked me to.
Okay, so it was your service, you can say.
Yeah, definitely. And I was.
And you write in English? And after,
it was written in English, yeah.
And after you did it,
then I translated back to my own language, Danish.
Yeah, Danish, you know, like that, you know. Yeah. So it means that it was to present from the Vedic perspective, a response to the Darwin presentation.
Yeah.
Darwin,
yeah. It was mainly you can say a continuation of the tradition we had in ISKCON back from, I'd say, from mainly Sariputta Karma, who wrote extensively on evolution and so on in the 1980s.
Yes.
Mainly that back then, but in the this time when I was about to write this book, actually for quite many years nothing had been written or published in ISKCON and that, and I knew a lot of things had happened.
Yes.
A whole new, what you can say, the intelligent design movement within science had arisen, which is not, I mean, those who are defenders of Darwinism and so on, they immediately would just write up, this is just some crazy Christian creationist. But it's nothing like that. The intelligent design society is simply scientists who, through their science, have discovered that Darwinism and evolution cannot be the explanation for the complexity of life, for the complexity of biology. One of the first and most known of these scientists was a professor named Michael Behe. He's still alive. He's a professor in biochemistry in America, in Pennsylvania. And he wrote a book called Darwin's Black Box.
Yes.
But where he looks at the cell as we know it now compared to Darwin's time. At Darwin's time, a cell was known as just something very simple. He could, at that time, you could, with a microscope, you could just see some kind of a round bubble with a, basically the details were not known. And Darwin thought, this is simple. But in now, I mean, and that's been going on since the 1950s, 60s and onwards, and a world of astounding complexity has been found within this. The most complex that has been found anywhere in nature. It's a world of super nanotechnology. It's more complex than any machine we have ever created. It's actually more complex than a whole big city with thousands and millions of processes going on. There are nanorobots involved in all kinds of producing other nanorobots, and there's digital technology inside the DNA and the code on the DNA is digital. It's just like exactly we have in our computer, in our software, just more advanced. Mm-hmm. So Behe, he wrote a book about that and said, I mean, there's no way that this can be a result of just some blind natural process evolving gradually over millions of years. Mm-hmm. And he introduced the term called irreducible complexity, mm-hmm. where he shows that cells and have many features which require the simultaneous presence of a number of components. Where you just remove one of them, the function completely stops.
Yes.
It's so mm-hmm. and that can such irreducible complex systems cannot be a result of a gradual process, because the function is not there until everything is in place.
Yes.
So that was his main argument.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's just a scientific. He's not arguing for the Bible. He's not arguing for. He's just arguing for that the only or the best, most rational scientific explanation for this is a result of some intelligent activity. Mm-hmm. Who that intelligence is, he does not. I mean, we think it's God, meaning a transcendent being behind the laws of physics, behind the universe. But that's not really the point. Is that these features can only be the result of some kind of intelligent activity. Mm-hmm. So Behe and others like him, reach that conclusion from their scientific, background, and they formed, a whole society which became known as Intelligent Design Movement, and that was quite prominent. Became prominent from around 1992 and onwards.
Yes.
And so there in 2005, 6, and 7, when I was discussing with the PPT about such a publication, nothing had been published within ISKCON about all this. Yes. And I thought, well, this is important that also devotees should have this knowledge, and therefore be, so that was the idea, to mainly just give a good updated presentation of the arguments that had already been developed by Sariputta especially.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So it means yourself, you were reading quite a lot Sariputta's book.
I read all Sariputta's book. That was there's of course there are different science and scientific approaches even within ISKCON to scientific preaching. Mm-hmm. So I was from the, you can say, Sariputta branch, Duta Karma.
Yes.
Like that. I read everything that they listened to lectures
and how did you become, we can say, interested for the scientific approach?
I mean, I come from a scientific background. Might be exactly. I mean, on what is called, we have here in Europe called gymnasium, is kind of high school level. So there I was studying science, mathematics, and science. But I never read more than that. I became a dropout and useless person, and then I became a Hare Krishna devotee, and that was the end of that. And I never made it to become anything.
But this when you join ISKCON, you get the association of some devotee who are interested by science.
Yeah, I mean, when I joined, and I mean, of course, one becomes very influenced by science, but you can see the scientific mindset.
Yes.
And I love Prabhupada's. I mean, started writing Prabhupada's, reading Prabhupada's books. I was immediately convinced. I read Beyond Birth and Death was the first book, and even that scientific. Prabhupada is very scientific and philosophical in his arguments that we're not this body. Yes. And I read also Life Comes from Life. That's it is, for a scientific person, even that is quite interesting if you're open-minded. Then when I joined in '82. And at that time here in Copenhagen, one disciple Prabhupada, Prabhu, Gyanadas. He was living here, and he was also one of the early members of the BI Institute. He was one of the 4 or 5 scientists at the BI conference in, was it 77 in Vrindavan?
Yes.
So he was here, and he was writing on a book about Darwin, which came out a little later, called Darwin's Secret Identity. So he was giving lectures on with criticizing Darwinism and evolution and so on. And of course, I was listening to that and learning a lot from him and getting inspired by him. And helped. I mean, and in one sense, I'm sure it was Krishna's arrangement. I needed these scientific arguments because I'm, conditioned by science, somewhat a science mindset.
Yes.
So that I'm very grateful for. But also it wasn't only because I just happened to live with one of the first BI scientists for a while. I think ISKCON back then was very much more influenced by scientific preaching. It was much more prominent. Many, I think every week we had lectures where there were at least some science arguments were presented, and it was much more prominent than somehow or another. It is, at least I find it nowadays, scientific preaching is not so prominent in like the general lectures and so on that we have now in modern ISKCON.
Yes. So it's mean when you wrote that book, it's mean you were, what was your main, we can say, discovery, I can say, realization?
What was... I mean, the thing is, I started reading this, especially what came out from the intelligent design circles, probably around 2000 and so on. And my wife and I at that time, and actually we still publish in a monthly magazine in Danish for the Danish devotees. So there I started translating articles in science for that magazine. And so I just started reading an awful lot of science about criticizing evolution, discussing intelligent design by different authors. I mean, I have a few meters of books like that, and I read them all. And realization, one realization is that science has never been so supportive of theistic views as today.
Yes.
It is. You cannot, if you're a real scientist, you have to be religious. You cannot reach any other conclusion. Atheism is based on ignorance, even if it's clouded, in some kind of scientific wrapping like that, but it's complete ignorance. And of course, I realized many of those who are, and they can even be big professors and PhDs and so on, but they're so unscientific. What they call the new science, the new atheists, Dawkins and Dennett and all that, they're so unscientific. It's shocking. And realization was actually also that this whole Darwinism evolution first of all, it's atheism which is masquerading as science, but the substance is not there. It's not science. It's not. Some will say the theory of evolution. I say that's a misnomer. There's no theory. Scientific theory has characteristics. It's a very, it's very detailed, specific. It's some kind of model that can possibly explain a certain phenomenon, and you can test it.
Yes.
Then you can test it whether it's if actually it is the right explanation or not. But evolution has not even an explanation. Like complexity of cells, there is no theory that can explain how you have on the early Earth with just the simple chemistry that is found there, and how you get from there just by natural processes come to the point of having a functional cell. They don't have it. They have no clue how it could happen. There's not a shadow of a theory about that. So it's not a theory. It's just a story. It's a story that's been told, and then there's some scientific jargon. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Just some slang, scientific slang, that high-sounding words, and the layman thinks that this sounds very scientific because the big professor, he's speaking words I don't understand. I don't understand what he says, so it must be very scientific.
But it is amazing to see that this Darwin evolution has a lot of influence in the world.
Because it's a worldview, and it's a creation story of atheism, and that's why it's sacred. You're not allowed to criticize it, because actually it's not science. It's like if you go to Muslim, Islamic countries, you cannot criticize Quran on the or Muhammad. It's not allowed.
Yes.
And evolution has the same status. There is a funny incident. One Chinese paleontologist gave a lecture, and that's also around this, maybe 20 years ago, in America, in Seattle. He gave a university lecture where he discusses some fossil findings from China. And one point he says, and this actually, Darwinism has a very hard time explaining this. And then afterwards, one American professor comes to him and says, actually, that you were kind of criticizing Darwinism here. We don't really do that. And then this Chinese paleontologist, Professor, he said, it's funny, in China, we can criticize Darwin, but not the government.
Yes.
In America, you can criticize the government, but you cannot criticize Darwin. So it has that status.
Yes.
And that's one discovery. That I mean, it is not. We're not dealing with the science. We're dealing with a worldview, or call it religion if you want.
Yes.
And that's why it is. If you criticize, it meets so much resistance, and the resistance is so big that anyone who is within academia has some job, even as teachers, professors, or like that, or research and so on, you cannot express your critique of Darwinism or your skepticism, or you don't believe in Darwin, then you're out.
Yes.
I had, when I had my books written, published, and I had devotees reading it, and I had some of our PhD devotees reading it, and approving of it and say it's fine, and writing some good reviews, but don't mention my name. It was devotees would say, don't mention my name, because I have my job as a professor. I cannot,
Yes. So what do you think about the evolution of Bhaktivedanta Institute nowadays?
What?
About BI now, because when Sadaputta was here, when Srila Bhakti Samdharaj was here, it was quite activities, with the scientific world. And nowadays it seems that it is less, we don't see so much activities about
Prabhu
BI.
was pushing very much, and he gave BI, as far as I can tell, two main fields to deal with. One was life comes from life, not matter.
Yes.
That's one thing, and the other is cosmology and fifth canto and stuff like that. They were two main areas that the BI should work on. But in terms of preaching to the outside world, and also for our own conviction, it seems like that we really have to scientifically establish life comes from life, not from matter. So Prabhupada pushed that, and there was a lot of momentum from Prabhupada's time in the first decade after Prabhupada. Nowadays, it's we have many highly educated devotees, and have many academic positions, and they do a lot of they're researching and they're publishing, and a lot of it is very good. and useful like that. But the focus is not so much on this on this topic. We have someone. I mean, Karma is very active. Still, he just he published a sequel to Forbidden Ecology last year. Very few have heard about it. Have you read it?
No.
Or seen it?
No, I just heard.
But heard about it. Yeah. So very few. I mean, I've read it. It's I mean, it's brilliant. But somehow or another, it's there's not the same drive nowadays. I mean, we have a few BI institutes, a few devotees, and I mean, the biggest one is in Florida, and there Brahmatirtha is doing very commendable work in uniting a lot of scientists and intellectuals, and interesting things are going on, and it is all good. But still, I mean, this clear focus confronting the atheism in the world, which has a shape of evolution, Darwinism, is not so much there. Although, I mean, in one thing, I would say evolution, Darwinism is the prime form of impersonalism in the modern world. Yes. When we go back to like the time of Lord Chaitanya, then the Shankara's Mayavad philosophy was the main impersonalism problem in those days. And devotees, they would, as far as I can tell, they knew Mayavad philosophy probably better than many Mayavadis do. And they could confront and argue and debate and convince. So nowadays we have to, know evolution and Darwinism in and out, because that is the impersonalism that we in our real life in this modern world, 2026. That's where impersonalism is nowadays. It's gross materialism, and the the philosophical underpinning for gross materialism is the theory of evolution, if you can call it a theory. And therefore, as devotees of Krishna in the Krishna consciousness movement, we actually have to know this, and we have to be able to confront it everywhere. That's but I would, I wish there was more focus on that.
Yes, understand. Probably when we are going to have the TOVP in Mayapur, especially with creation, cosmology like that, probably it's going to be more well known by the devotee first, and automatically
there's some competent devotees working on some presentation there also on about life comes from life and so on. We'll see how it comes out.
Yes. So thank you very much
for
sharing your realization about your interest about science, and also the interest about how to counteract the hypothesis of Darwin.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Ho.